I sense death within this place. Treasure hunting. Treasure finding. Yes.
Hey everyone, I hope you guys are doing great. I've been having an absolute blast playing the Necromancer for the last 2 weeks. I made the Sorceress video, you guys really gave positive feedback on that, so I want to make a class guide for every single class, hopefully before Diablo 2 Resurrected comes out. So this is going to be the Necromancer simply because you guys voted on it in the poll I made about 2 weeks ago. The Necromancer ended up polling into number 1. The Amazon was for quite a while, and I was just about to start the Amazon, but then somehow all of the Necromancer players came out and voted. So with that being said, we have the Necromancer here as our number 2 guide, the Ultimate Necromancer Guide. So if you're looking to go from the start of the game all the way to beating Baal on the 3rd difficulty, which is Hell Mode, hopefully you can do this with this guide, and I hope it's useful for you. So with that being said, I made 2 Necromancers in the last 2 weeks. I made one specifically as a Bone Necro, and I made a second one as a Summoner, because I know a lot of you out there like these 2 builds, and both of them are perfectly fine to play the game. So let's talk a bit about the Bone Necro first, and then we'll talk about the Summoner. The Necromancer has 2 strong builds to choose from that are both great to start with in normal level 1, all the way to being perfectly capable to magic find and complete Hell Mode as well. So with the Bone Necromancer, you want to start off using Teeth because it has insane damage as well as insane AoE to clear out groups of monsters. This is going to be your most efficient spell from the beginning as a Bone Necro. Once you hit level 18, you're going to focus on Bone Spear, which will become your main skill for the rest of the game. Piercing enemies in a line allows it to have decent AoE damage and also just having insane single target against bosses. Once you hit level 24, you'll get Bone Prison, which allows you to trap everything forever. This includes bosses that will never touch you a single time, and it just makes them super easy. So with Bone Prison and Bone Spear, you can kill everything easily from a safe distance. In addition to this, you'll also have Corpse Explosion once you have enough plus skills on your items, such as a White or a Lore. And with the Corpse Explosion, blow up corpses, and when they're near monsters, they take a significant amount of damage. So overall, Bone Necro is a lot of fun to play, and you have some protection through Bone Armor, especially if you're putting synergies into Bone Prison and Bone Wall. So overall, I highly recommend Bone Necro if you're looking for speed and spell casting. However, I know most of you only play Necromancer specifically to become Arthas and the next Lich King. You love raising your undead armies, so for this reason, we also have a Summoner build that we're going to run through in this guide. The Summoner build is very simple. You're going to curse every monster you see to give your Mercenary and your Skeletons double damage. It's a huge increase, so make sure all the monsters have your curses, specifically amplified damage, and if they're dangerous, decrepify. In terms of your main skills, you're going to be using Raised Skeleton to make sure they're nice and durable, and in normal they can kill things in like 3 or 4 hits, so skeletons are actually pretty good in normal when you focus on them. Later on, once you get into Hell Mode and you have high enough skill points and levels, you'll be able to also go into Corpse Explosion, which will completely destroy the entire area on your map. So once you get a kill or 2 with your skeletons and your mercenary, you destroy everything else with Corpse Explosion. It's an amazing build, I highly recommend it, and we're going to go through that here in this guide. So now that we've actually talked a bit about how the Bone Necromancer and the Summoner work, let's look at the builds that I have here that you guys can follow if you like. The first build here we have is the Bone Necromancer. So if you look on the left side, it says Normal Build. This is the build you want to go in Normal and then respec when you're ready for Nightmare. So for almost every level, you end up going Teeth, as you can see. So Teeth from level 2 to 5, Den of Evil Extra Quest will also be Teeth, and when you hit level 6, you want Clay Golem. Not only will the Clay Golem tank monsters for you, but it's really important when you face bosses, and I'll go into that later. From level 7 to 10, you also want to pick up Teeth, and level 11, you want Amplified Damage because it's required for Iron Maiden at level 12. Iron Maiden is important against normal bosses as well. Without the Iron Maiden Clay Golem strategy I will be showing you guys later, it makes bosses significantly harder, especially as a summon Necro. From level 13 to 16, you want to pick up Teeth, Radamant, your extra quest, is Teeth, and then level 17, you want Corpse Explosion because it's required to pick up Bone Spear at level 18. From then on, you want to go completely into Bone Spear, and if you have any extra skill points that cannot go into it, you want to put them into Teeth for the extra damage to Bone Spear. So that's your normal build, and then once you've killed Baal, depending on when you want to go into Nightmare, then you want to respec into something else. So as we see in the next category on the right, it says Bone Build. This is the full-on Bone Build that you will use in Nightmare and Hell mode that I used. You want to put 1 into Clay Golem just in case you need to summon the Clay Golem constantly to tank a monster so you can safely get away or so you can safely kill it. Otherwise, you want to max Bone Spear, put the rest of your points into Bone Prison, and then any spare points after that goes into Bone Wall. Then, once you've maxed all 3 of those, you should be about level 60 or so, you want to start putting into Teeth for some extra synergy damage. Now, the reason why you respec here into Bone Prison and Bone Wall is because of about 2 or 3 reasons. Bone Wall and Bone Prison are required so you can safely keep heavy, difficult monsters in Hell mode and Nightmare far away from you so you can kill them at a safe distance. Additionally, they also provide a damage increase to Bone Spear, just like Teeth does. And the third reason is that they are also a synergy to Bone Armor. So Bone Armor absorbs physical damage for you, which gives you a lot of survivability. So by picking up those synergies, you increase the Bone Armor absorption of Bone Armor. So it's way better than having all those points into Teeth early on, which is why I recommend respecking. Now, finally, in the respec build, I have optional here, which is Decrepify. If you want to slow down the attack speed and movement speed of monsters, you can pick up the Decrepify Curse, but personally, I find Bone Prison to be perfectly fine and more than enough in Nightmare and Hell. Just trap everything with Prison, and you really don't need Decrepify, in my opinion. In terms of stats, all points should be going into Vitality. The only times I recommend adding Strength is when you need 25 just before you go into Act 2. For example, I believe the Necromancer has 15 Strength. Maybe when you hit level 8 or 9, you put in 10 points, so you have 25. Then you can equip the belt in Act 2. Now, once you hit level 21, depending on what shield you have for your Ancient's Pledge, which we'll get into later, you need about 34 or 47 strength. So you want to plan that amount of strength by the time you hit 21. The same thing goes for Spirit, depending on what sword you have and if you're making it. And you honestly shouldn't need more than 60 or 70 strength total when you're about level 60 or so. Now, in terms of the Summon Necromancer, the stats are exactly the same, so we're going to focus on the skills here. So on the left here, we have the Summoner build. You actually do not have to respec at all as a Summoner, so just stick with this build from level 1 all the way to the end. You want to go Raise Skeleton at level 2 and 3. The reason why is this will give you 3 skeletons right at the start instead of having just 1. When you get your Den of Evil quest or hit level 4, depends on what one you get first, you want to pick up Amplify damage so you can start cursing monsters to double your skeletons and mercenaries damage. After that, you want Skeleton Mastery, level 5, another one into Raise Skeleton. At level 6, you want Clay Golem, because he's also going to be an extra minion, as well as slowing enemies by a small percentage. The slow is what's really great about Clay Golem, so I recommend using Clay Golem over any other Golem in the game, at least when you're going through normal Nightmare and Hell with bad gear. Clay Golem is amazing for the slow effect, especially on difficult monsters. Then, after you get Clay Golem at level 6, you want to go into Raise Skeleton at level 7 to 11, and then at level 12 you want Iron Maiden, just for the same reason as I was mentioning earlier as the Bone Necro. When it comes to bosses, the Summon Necro is really, really bad. Your skeletons die very quickly, so you have to use a really nice strategy, which I'll go into later, which involves the Clay Golem and Iron Maiden. From level 13 to 20, you want to go straight into Raise Skeleton. Your Radamant extra quest, you want to pick up Golem Mastery because it's required to pick up your Summon Resist. At level 21, you want to get Raise Skeleton again. At level 22 and 23, you want to pick up Weaken and Terror because they are required for Decrepify. And then once you hit 24, you want to pick up Summon Resist, and also when you get Iswal, you want to pick up Decrepify and also put the extra point into Raise Skeleton. At level 25 and 26, you want to finally max out Raise Skeleton, and now you can pick up Revive at level 30. And those require Skeletal Mage at 27, Blood Golem at 28, Iron Golem at 29, and finally you unlock Revive at 30, which will be really important for killing bosses later, which again I'll get into later with the strategies. At level 31 and 32, you want to unlock Teeth and Corpse Explosion. Corpse Explosion will be your main source of damage later when you get more plus skills on your gear. And then after you've done all of this, you should be able to then max Skeleton Mastery and then max Corpse Explosion. After this, you should be about level 60 something, maybe 70, and you now get to choose where you want to go. You can choose to get more revives, you can choose to get more resistance for your summons, or you can choose to get more skeleton mages, even though in my opinion they suck, but if you like having a big army, skeleton mage is also another option. So overall, that's the Bone Necromancer build, and that's the Summon Necromancer build. I'd love to hear your feedback on it. This is, again, what I ran with my 2 Necromancers, and it worked perfectly fine. Alright, let's get straight into the game now. So whether you're a Bone Necro or a Summon Necromancer, you want to go through normal, picking up and stashing any chipped gems you find, as well as any magic, scepters, wands, and staves that do not have any class skills on them. If they have class skills, they will sell for a lot of gold, so go ahead and sell them. But if they don't have any, throw them in your stash because these will be important to generate gold later on when we get to Act 2. The big Necromancer items you want to look for early on, or really throughout the whole game, are wands and Necromancer demon heads, because these grant a bonus to Necromancer skills. For example, if you're leveling as a summoner, you want to use any wands or necro heads that have raised skeleton and skeleton mastery on them. If you're leveling as a bone Necromancer, equip any wands and heads that have teeth. If you're level 18 or higher, anything with bone spear will also be better for the bone Necromancer. Whenever you're in town, make sure to check Charcy for a 2-socketed armor and a 2-socketed helmet. The 2-socketed armor will be used to craft the Stealth Rune Word, which is going to be your best armor at least towards the end of Nightmare, so you will be using the Stealth for a very long time. As for the 2-socketed helmet, there's going to be a lot of fire resistance that you need going into Act 3 and 4. So you need fire resistance against the Shamans, the Venom Lords, and especially Diablo himself, because their fire skills can kill you instantly if you have low fire resistance and you're not paying attention. When you get to the Black Marsh, you'll want to start doing tower runs. A tower run is pretty simple. Just take the Black Marsh waypoint, find the Forgotten Tower, and kill the Countess on the last floor. The Countess is the best place to find runes this early on into the game, and you want to run the tower until you have a Tal rune and Eth rune to make your Stealth Rune Word. After this, you can pretty much move on if you want. Now, while you're in the tower, make sure to check any chests and burials and graves, as they have a high chance to drop jewelry. In just 2 tower runs, my Necromancer found at least 4 rings and amulets with Faster Cast Rate on them. Faster Cast Rate, or FCR, allows him to cast all of his spells and curses faster. The FCR breakpoints for the Necromancer are 9, 18, 30, 48, 75, and 125. As a Bone Necromancer, you'll want to reach the 48% breakpoint early on, which can be achieved by having 2 rings, an amulet, and a stealth. For Summoners, you don't really rely on FCR as much, since they just sit back and let their minions do the work. So you can afford to sacrifice some of the FCR in favor of other stats like Magic Find or Resistances. When you turn in the Heraldric Malice, you can turn a normal item with no sockets into a rare item. The stats on the rare item depends on the level of your character, so I recommend saving the Imbue for when you're a higher level. Personally, I like to save it until much later, like level 75 or 80 or so, and then imbue a circlet to try and get amazing stats on them. But if you want to use it early on to help your questing, then I recommend using it on a Necromancer head, since the good Necromancer heads are really hard to find. If you're a summoner, it doesn't matter when you imbue the Necromancer head, since skeleton skills are all low level anyway, but if you're choosing to do this as a Bone Necromancer, I recommend waiting until level 18 so you can try and get Bone Spear on the Necromancer head. Now before you engage Andorial, drink a few antidote potions for increased poison resistance. The easiest way to deal with bosses in normal is to cheese them with Iron Maiden and Clay Golem. As long as you keep your Iron Maiden curse on Andorial, and you resummon your Clay Golem every time she kills it, she will eventually kill herself. The Clay Golem and Iron Maiden strategy is just absolutely hilarious and amazing, and whoever found this out years ago is a genius. When you get to Act 2, the first thing you want to do is buy a belt from Farah if you didn't get one from Charcy already. Next, hire a new mercenary from Gray's at the top of Loot Lane. Then equip him with a scythe or Volge from Farah if she has one. Act 2 mercenaries are by far the best, as they deal the most damage, can tank for you, and they provide an aura that buffs both you and your summons. I usually go with the combat mercenary, since Prayer Aura passively heals you and all of your minions every few seconds. As you go through Act 2, keep checking Farah for a 3-socketed large shield or kite shield. This will be used to craft the Ancient's Pledge rune word when you reach Act 5. Once you have the Heraldric Cube, you can now re-roll the blue scepters, wands, and staves I mentioned that you should stockpile earlier. Place 3 chipped gems and one of those items into the cube and transmute it. If it re-rolls with class skills on it, you can now sell it for thousands more gold. If you ever need more class items, you can buy cheap scepters, wands, and staves from Akara and then re-roll them. I've seen scepters sell for like 500 gold, so it should be no problem. You can also choose to sell them now in Act 2 for up to 10,000 gold, or you can wait until Act 3 where they can sell up to 15,000 gold, and as you go through each act, the cap that items can sell for increases by 5,000 up to a total of 35,000. Now, if you're a Bone Necromancer and you're in Act 2 and you're at least level 16, you're going to want to start shopping a normal quality Bone Wand with Bone Spear and either no sockets or 2 sockets. Make sure it's a Bone Wand since the other wands, such as the U Wand, cannot get 2 sockets on them. You can buy the Bone Wand from Drognin in Act 2 or Ormus in Act 3. It took my level 16 Necromancer less than 5 minutes to shop a 2 Bone Spear Wand for 50,000 gold and a 3 Bone Spear Wand for 74,000 gold at Drognin. Getting this wand as soon as you unlock Bone Spear is huge because it allows you to kill everything for the rest of normal in like 2 or 3 hits. When facing Duriel, give you and your merc multiple thawing potions beforehand as it will increase your cold resistance, preventing you from getting 2-shotted by Duriel. Duriel is going to delete your army as a summoner, so don't worry about that. As long as you keep him cursed with Iron Maiden and resummon your golem the instant he dies, he should eventually kill himself just like Andoriel did in Act 1. Now, speaking of Duriel deleting your army, whenever you are in the middle of playing the game and you lose your skeletons and you have no way to get them back, just go to the Cold Plains or anywhere in Act 1 and your mercenary should kill everything easily. This will allow you to raise your skeletons very quickly and it's not very painful. This is really good as well as a tip in Nightmare and Hell mode, where if you're having difficulty in, say, Hell Act 4 or Hell Act 5, maybe Diablo killed all of your skeletons and you want to get them back, just go to Cold Plains and simply revive them as long as your mercenary is able to kill them. So now that you're in Act 3, it's time to do a little shopping. Heratli should be right beside you when you first enter Act 3. You want to buy a poleaxe from him if your mercenary needs a new weapon. It's an insane weapon and I always buy one. You also want to keep an eye out if there's a 2-socketed poleaxe, at least as a summoner, because you will need this later for the Strength rune word. The next item to buy is a staff with teleport charges. If you don't have the gold for it, you can buy it in the later acts as well, such as Act 4 and 5 if you want to shop it, but if you want to get it right now, you can actually keep checking Ormus until one shows up. The teleport staff helps get over annoying terrain, speeds up your magic find runs later when you magic find, and is especially good for summoners because teleport causes all of your minions to teleport on top of you, allowing you to reposition them at will when they get lost or stuck. And as a summoner, trust me, this is going to happen a lot. You're going to love the teleport staff. When facing the council in Travancore, there should be a few outside that you'll want to pull away from the main area. It's really important that you only face a few council members at a time because it's really easy to get overwhelmed with hydras, and if there's enough hydras there, they're just going to completely kill your mercenary and your skeletons. When facing Mephisto, cheese him with Iron Maiden and Clay Golem just like the previous bosses. He has dangerous spells that can one-shot you if you're not paying attention, but honestly, as long as your Clay Golem is up, he should not be targeting you at all, so just keep your Clay Golem alive, keep that Iron Maiden on him, and he should be easy peasy. If you're not level 23 when you enter Act 4, you're going to receive an experience penalty when killing monsters because you're too low of a level. So if you still need to get level 23 after killing Mephisto, then I recommend going back to Act 3 and doing temple runs. To do temple runs, simply take the Kuros Bazaar waypoint and kill Battle Maiden Serena's group inside the ruined temple. Once you're level 23 or 24, then you can start doing Act 4. You can also get this level 23 or 24 strategy out of the way before Mephisto if that's what you prefer. It doesn't really matter. You just need to make sure you're 23 or 24 when you go into Act 4. Without the Iron Maiden strategy, normal Diablo would easily be the most difficult boss in the game because he just completely destroys your skeleton army and there's nothing you can do about it. There's no potions, nothing. Diablo is overpowered. So luckily we have the Iron Maiden and Clay Golem strategy to make this fight actually bearable. I've done this fight before without Iron Maiden, and it's absolutely horrible spending at least 10 minutes constantly going back to Act 1 to raise skeletons, only to watch them die the instant I take the town portal to Diablo, and he just lightning breaths right in the open. So just use the Clay Golem Iron Maiden strategy. Don't force yourself to kill him slowly with skeletons. It's not worth it. It's terrible. When you first get to Act 5, don't buy anything. The cost of everything in Act 5 is doubled until you complete the first quest, so you'll want to go back to Act 4 to buy your potions. When you kill Shank the Overseer to complete the first quest, the item prices will go back to normal, and you'll unlock the ability to socket an item of your choice. If you're a Bone Necromancer, this is where you will want to take your Bone Spear Wand and use the socket quest. This will allow the Bone Wand to get 2 sockets, which allows you to make the white rune word once you find the runes later in Nightmare. If you're a summoner, save the socket quest for later. The second quest gives you 3 runes, Ral, Ort, and Tal. Take the 3-socketed shield you bought from Farah in Act 2 earlier, and socket it in the order Ral, Ort, Tal. This will craft the Ancient's Pledge, which will be an amazing resistance boost during your journey for Nightmare and Hell. When you reach the Ariat Summit, make sure to leave a town portal just outside in the Ancient's Way. Activating the Ancient's Fight removes all town portals in the summit area, and if you open a town portal during the fight will end and reset, so you'll want to make sure your TP is outside just in case you die. Iron Maiden doesn't seem too effective here, so you can use Amplify damage to double the damage of your mercenary, and if you're a summoner, it will double the damage of your skeletons as well. When you clear the throne room of monsters, Baal will laugh and 5 waves will spawn. The waves shouldn't be too much trouble as long as you keep summoning your golem in between bone spears. Wave 5 is the most dangerous wave because they stun and deal a high amount of damage, making it difficult for your army to deal any damage to them. However, their melee attacks deal so much damage, which means you can Iron Maiden them and watch them kill themselves on your army or your golem. I ended up doing this with just the clay golem on my Bone Necromancer, and I was quite surprised by how much damage they did to themselves. As a summoner, you can also use Decrepify if you have it to slow them down, but honestly, the Iron Maiden is such a great curse against these waves that I recommend just doing that. When fighting Baal, he is no different than any other boss in normal. Drink a few thawing potions to reduce his cold damage against you, and then cheese him with the Iron Maiden and clay golem. Eventually, Baal will kill himself and you'll have completed normal. By defeating normal Baal, you can now open the secret cow level in normal by cubing a Tome of Town portal with Wurt's Leg in Act 1. Summoners will want to farm the cow level for a crystal sword with no sockets. Once you have a crystal sword with no sockets, take it to Larzuk in normal and use your socket quest. This 4-socketed sword is used to craft the spirit rune word when you have the runes, but it's a ladder only rune word, so if you're a non-ladder or single player character, then skip this crystal sword and cow level step since you cannot even craft spirit. At the time of this guide, Diablo 2 Resurrected hasn't even been released yet, and the beta hasn't even arrived yet either, so it's still possible that Blizzard will accept the popular request of allowing ladder rune words on single player, which is why I still recommend having these ladder rune word items in the guide. So at this point, you've killed Baal, and you should be at least level 25 or 26. If you're a Bone Necromancer, you can head straight into Nightmare because your damage is high enough. However, if you are a newer player or a Summon Necromancer, then I recommend continuing to farm Baal runs and Eldritch runs until at least level 35. Baal and Eldritch runs can get you into the 40s easily, so it's really up to you when you're ready for Nightmare. So now that we're ready for Nightmare, let's talk about some of the items and rune words we want to look for as we progress. At level 46, you can start shopping a wand with 2 to all Necromancer skills. This is a nice wand for summoners if you cannot craft a spirit, and you can also shop these wands with additional skills on them. These wands can be very expensive, but depending on what you have, it's absolutely an amazing upgrade. At level 54, you can start shopping a 3 to summoning wand, and just like the previous wand I mentioned, it can also have additional skills. You can also get a 3 to poison and bone skills wand and a 3 to curses wand, but I don't find them useful compared to a spirit or a white. Lore is a rune word crafted by socketing Ort and Soul into a 2-socketed helmet. This is a quick and easy way to get 1 to all skills, lightning resistance, and damage reduction. Rhyme is a rune word crafted by socketing Shale and Eth into a 2-socketed shield. Ancient's Pledge is better for the resistances, but if you happen to find a 2-socketed Necromancer head with good skills on it, then perhaps Rhyme might be worth using. Insight is a rune word crafted by socketing Ral, Tyr, Tal, and Soul into a 4-socketed polearm. Keep in mind, Insight cannot be crafted in spears, which is a common rookie mistake. This is one of the best weapons for your mercenary early on due to its high damage as well as the meditation aura, which boosts your mana regeneration. Insight is a ladder-only rune word, so if you're a non-ladder or single-player character, skip this item since you cannot craft it. White is a rune word crafted by socketing Dole and Io into a 2-socketed wand. Wand bases can have 3 to Bone Spear on them, as well as other skills, so with the right wand, your white can give +8 to Bone Spear, increasing your damage tenfold. If you're currently using the Bone Spear wand from Act 2 or 3 from normal, don't socket the runes in yet until you're level 35, otherwise you suddenly won't be able to use the wand until that level. Strength is a rune word crafted by socketing Amn and Tyr into a 2-socketed melee weapon. Crushing Blow deals a percentage of the target's current health and damage, making it incredible against bosses. Smoke is a rune word crafted by socketing Nef and Lum into a 2-socketed armor. If you're looking for more resistances for Hell mode and don't feel like farming Nightmare bosses for a Viper Magi, then you can craft a Smoke for the 50 res. Treachery is crafted by socketing Shale, Thal, and Lem into a 3-socketed armor. The res and physical damage reduction from Fade, paired with the insane attack speed, makes Treachery one of the best mercenary armors available. However, the Lem rune is pretty rare, so unless you're really lucky here or you're farming Nightmare, you probably won't be making a Treachery if you're going into Hell mode early. Other than the Lem and Lum runes in some of these rune words, most of these runes drop commonly from Nightmare Countess. So if you're a summoner, I recommend farming Nightmare Countess right away when you get to her for both the lore and strength rune words. And if you can craft a lot of rune words, also get the runes for your Spirit and Insight as well. I recommend getting the gear as soon as possible on a summoner because these items will increase the summoner's kill speed significantly. If you're a Bone Necromancer, your damage is high enough so you don't have to farm Nightmare Countess right away. You can choose to farm the runes early if you want to, but I personally chose to save time by going through the acts in Nightmare without getting these runes, and I just instead hope that they drop on the way. If I don't get them, I just simply farm for them until I'm ready for Hell mode. So the Iron Maiden strategy doesn't work in Nightmare and Hell, so you'll have to use a different strategy against the bosses like Andariel. For Bone Necromancers, just cast a few Bone Prisons and then chip away at her with Bone Spear. When the prison breaks, cast a few more prisons and repeat the Bone Spear process until she's dead. Very simple strategy as a Bone Necromancer, and this will be your strategy all the way through the rest of the game. For Summon Necromancers, use Decrepify on bosses and dangerous mobs instead of Amplify damage. The physical damage bonus is only 50% compared to 100%, but the slow effect makes a world of difference in keeping your summons alive. If you have Corpse Explosion, use it on corpses near Andariel as it deals a ton of damage. If you have any Crushing Blow items, such as the Strength rune word I mentioned earlier, equip it on your Mercenary so he can deal massive damage to bosses. When you get to Nightmare Act 2, I recommend replacing your Mercenary with a new one. If you're a Bone Necromancer, hire a Nightmare Defensive Act 2 Mercenary because his Holy Freeze aura will slow the attack and movement speeds of enemies around him. If you're a Summoner, hire an Offensive Act 2 Merc because his Might aura will increase the physical damage of both himself and your summons. Now, starting with Nightmare Duriel, every boss fight going forward will be the same strategy. Bone Necros will laugh as they give each boss life in prison with no parole, and they get to freely bone them with Bone Spear. For summoners, bosses would be an absolute pain because your minions do very little damage to bosses and they can easily kill your skeletons. However, there is a Necromancer secret to beating the bosses, and that secret is reviving Blunderboars. Blunderboars are a unique monster type because they are the only monster that we know of that has Crushing Blow. Crushing Blow deals a quarter of the target's current health and damage, or an eighth against bosses, including endgame Uber bosses. The most common areas to find blunders are in the Harem, Palace Cellars, and Tal Rasha tombs in Act 2. You can also find them in the Durance of Hate levels in Act 3, and the River of Flame in Act 4. There are some areas in Act 5, but it's so out of the way it's not worth checking. Just remember that revives only last 3 minutes, so to get the most out of these guys, you should leave a TP at the boss you want to face, and then run back to the waypoint after you revive them. The order of the areas I check are the Palace Cellar and Harem first, since the waypoint is very close, and then the Durance of Hate, and then the River of Flame. Nightmare Ancients requires level 40 to complete. Remember to leave a TP outside of the summit in case you die. For Bone Necromancers, Bone Prison makes an excellent distraction. You don't necessarily have to trap them, because honestly, Tala can whirlwind through the prison and Corlic can leap out of it. But if you're far enough away Bone Spearing, you'll be able to freely hit them while they're busy attacking your Bone Prisons that are all over the place. The Ancients definitely aren't helping the low intellect warrior stereotype, that's for sure. For summoners, I recommend reviving a few blunders before engaging them, and it will just simply make the fight a lot faster and smoother. After the Ancients, be very careful of Lightning Souls and Undead Dolls when you're heading all the way to Baal's throne room. The souls can kill your skeletons quite easily, and they also pierce through them, so they can still hit you when you're in the back, hoping that the skeletons will absorb hits. If you run into souls, just grab the Worldstone Keep level 2 waypoint and then create new games until you get a run without the souls. At this point, the throne room shouldn't be too difficult since you can trap with Bone Prison or slow it with Decrepify. You'll want to continue doing Nightmare Bale runs until at least level 65. If you're not ready to take on Hell, Nightmare Bales can get you to at least level 78 if you have the patience, and if you're not comfortable with your current gear, I would consider magic finding Mephisto for big upgrades such as Viper Magi, Moser's Blessed Circle, Trang Gloves. You can also find the super rare Homunculus off Diablo and Bale, or super rare off Mephisto. Alright, so let's take a look at what my gear looks like after I'm done Nightmare and ready to go into Hell mode. On my Bone Necromancer, I'm only level 60, and my gear isn't even that good. I have the white, which is the big deal here, with a 2 to Bone Spear, and then I also have here some typical resistance rings, resistance gloves, a very basic belt, and some resistant boots. I have the Ancient's Pledge and the Stealth and the Lore still, so really I just don't have that great of gear. I don't have the Viper Magi, the Mosers, or any of the other items I recommended if you were to stick around in Nightmare to magic find. Even my Mercenary doesn't have very high damage as well. The only thing that really changes in this gear when it comes to my Necromancer, if I was a summoner, is that instead of having the white wand, I had a 2 to Necromancer wand just to increase my skills, and that's pretty much the only difference. So let's talk about Hell mode now. Honestly, Hell mode is pretty much just like Nightmare. The strategy is the same, the difficulty just comes from having the right build and knowing a few summoner secrets such as the blunderbores, which I mentioned, against bosses, since boss fights become almost near impossible to suddenly easy when you use them. And then using Act 1, as I mentioned, as your personal burial ground to make raising your skeletons easy enough even for a poorly geared mercenary. Just take Hell mode nice and slow, don't teleport too much as all it's going to take is one bad teleport and you die instantly. Other than that, it's pretty simple, just a little bit slow to get through Hell mode as either a summoner or a bone necro. Before you start the Hell Ancients fight, drop a bunch of potions on the ground just in case you need them. You're going to be using a lot of mana, so you never know when you need those mana potions. If you run out and you have to TP, that's going to feel very painful resetting the fight. Once you spawn the Ancients, quickly mouse over them and check their modifiers. For Bone Necromancers, you don't want any of them having Magic Resistant or Lightning Enchanted. Talak having extra fast could also be a problem, since he's very difficult to dodge with Whirlwind's insane speed. For Summoners, you don't want any of them having Stone Skin or Immune to Physical, or Lightning Enchanted if you want to keep your Mercenary alive. If any of them end up with modifiers you don't want, make a TP to reset the fight until they spawn with modifiers you want. Their modifiers change every time you restart the fight. As you make your way to Bale's throne room, friendly reminder to once again be careful of Lightning Souls. They are so much worse in Hell mode, so if you see them, grab that Worldstone waypoint and get the heck out of there until you create a game without those souls. Those are going to be your main issue when trying to get to Bale. When it comes to Bale's waves, the main challenge for Bone Necros is Wave 2, because the Unravelers are immune to magic, so unless your Mercenary is completely decked out in the best gear, you're probably not going to be able to kill them at all. Use Bone Prison to distract them at first, then focus killing down all of the mages. When the skeleton mages die, corpse explode them immediately so the Unravelers cannot revive them. Once all of the skeleton mages are dead and exploded, now you want to get behind a wall. By line of sighting the Unravelers behind a wall, they will be compelled to run up to you and smack you. When they run up close enough, start running down to the next pillar and repeat this process until they all run out of the room. As soon as they are all out of the room, teleport over the wall and rush back up. As long as you don't run back down there to get their attention, you should be able to skip right through this wave and go right to Wave 3. For the Summon Necromancer, the main challenge in Bale's wave is Wave 5. Decrepify the minions and wait for your army to slowly chunk them down. Eventually their high damage and stun is going to kill some of your skeletons. This is when you want to go back to town, rebuild your army in Act 1, and then revive any blunders that you found earlier. Make sure you don't TP after you revive them, as you want your TP to still be in the throne room so you can get there quickly, because once you've revived enough, you need them alive long enough to not only kill Wave 5, but also to finish off Bale when you decide to fight him. Once you've killed Hell Bale, you can go pretty much anywhere as the Necromancer. anywhere is great, but the Necromancer really excels in areas where there are a lot of monsters, and this is mainly due to corpse explosion. So this concludes the Necromancer guide. There's so much I can add into this, but I want to keep the guide focused mostly on Normal Act 1 to Hell Act 5. If you have any questions or if I missed anything, feel free to leave a comment down below. I hope this guide was useful to you both as a Bone Necromancer and a Summon Necromancer. With that, I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching and sticking around for this long. I will have a poll up shortly after this video is uploaded, so you can take a look and see what class you want to have next. So with that being said, I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you next time.
They'll never doubt my skills.
Greetings. I am impressed, mortal. You have overcome the greatest challenge this world has ever faced and defeated the last of the Prime Evils. However, we are too late to save the World Stone. Baal's destructive touch has corrupted it completely. Given enough time, the World Stone's energies will drain away, and the barriers between the worlds will shatter. The powers of hell will flood into this sanctuary and eradicate your people and everything you've labored to build. Therefore, I must destroy the corrupted World Stone before the powers of hell take root. This act will change your world forever, with consequences even I cannot foresee. However, it is the only way to ensure mankind's survival. Go now, mortal. I have opened a portal that will lead you to safety. May the eternal light shine upon you and your descendants for what you've done this day. The continued survival of mankind is your legacy. Above all else, you have earned a rest from this endless battle.